Mark had always trusted Sasha. They'd been married for 6 years, built a life together, and even adopted a rescue dog they named Milo. But something had shifted over the past few months. She used to call him on her way home, laughing about her day or asking if he wanted Chinese or pizza. Now, the calls had stopped 3 times this week. She came home well past 10 p.m., each time with a vague excuse. Deadlines? Babe, you know how my boss is. She said it with a tired smile and kissed him on the cheek. But her eyes were somewhere else, somewhere far from him. Mark wanted to believe her. He really did, but last night, she came home with her shirt buttoned wrong and a faint smell of men's cologne on her jacket. Not the one he wore. It was sharp, different. At dinner, she barely spoke. She scrolled through her phone under the table, texting someone with a tiny smirk she tried to hide. He asked, "How was work?" She replied without looking up, "Stressful. Let's not talk about it." He watched her push food around her plate and excuse herself to take a quick call. 10 minutes passed, then 20. When she came back, she said it was her supervisor. But Mark saw it, the faint red blush on her neck, the kind she always got after intimacy. That night, she fell asleep instantly. Mark, on the other hand, lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Something was wrong. He knew it. He felt it in his chest like a weight pressing down. And when he glanced at her phone left carelessly on the nightstand, a notification flashed. "Ryan. Can't stop thinking about last night." Mark didn't open the message. He didn't have to. His heart had already shattered. But instead of confronting her, he decided to do something else. Something that would tell him the truth without any more lies. Tomorrow, he would install a camera. The next morning, Mark sat in the kitchen alone, sipping cold coffee. Sasha had already left for work before sunrise. No kiss goodbye. No, have a good day, just the sound of the front door quietly shutting behind her. Mark scrolled through her Instagram, which she rarely posted on anymore. He noticed one new story. Blurry, taken from across a table, wine glasses, a guy's arm visible just enough. Not his, not anyone he recognized. She had captioned it, "Late work dinner, crushing deadlines, no tag, no name, just vibes and not good ones." Later that day, Mark drove to Sasha's office building. He waited across the street in his car, heart pounding with guilt and suspicion. He hated spying, but not knowing was worse. Way worse. Around noon, he saw her walking out with a tall man in a fitted blazer, sharp jawline, confident posture, and the way Sasha looked at him, laughing, brushing her hair behind her ear. That wasn't how she looked at Mark anymore. They stood too close. Her hand grazed his arm once. It looked casual, but it wasn't. Not to someone who knew her every gesture. Not to her husband. Mark pulled out his phone and snapped a photo from the car. He zoomed in. The man's name badge read, Ryan Matthews, project manager. There he was. The name from the message. The mystery texter. Back at home, Mark paced the living room. He remembered how Sasha had first mentioned Ryan about 3 weeks ago, just once over dinner. "Ryan's great with organizing chaos," she had said. "I'm learning so much from him." He thought nothing of it at the time. Now those words echoed like gunshots. That night, Mark brought up Ryan's name casually. "So how's Ryan? Still teaching you stuff?" Sasha blinked too fast. "Oh yeah, he's fine," she said, shrugging. Then she added, "Why do you ask?" Mark smiled. "No reason. Just sounded like he was helping a lot." Sasha nodded but didn't meet his eyes. Instead, she stood up and started washing her plate, ending the conversation. The silence screamed louder than any argument. In bed, Sasha turned her back to him. She fell asleep quickly. Mark didn't. He stared at the ceiling again, the same way he did last night, but this time he had a name, a face, and tomorrow he'd buy the camera. He wasn't just going to catch them, he was going to outsmart them. The next few days felt like slow poison. Mark and Sasha still shared the same table, the same bed, the same walls, but not the same world. He cooked dinner every night, hoping she'd notice. She didn't. Her phone buzzed more than she spoke. On Thursday, she came home an hour late again. Mark had made her favorite pasta with creamy garlic sauce and roasted mushrooms. It sat on the table getting cold. Sasha walked in, barely glanced at the food, and said, "Sorry, we had to stay late for Ryan's presentation." Ryan, that name again, always on her lips, like a casual whisper of betrayal. Mark asked if the presentation went well. She said yes and gave a vague comment about team dynamics. Then she excused herself to shower. He sat alone at the table, chewing through silence. When she returned, she was in pajamas, hair wet, phone in hand. She smiled at something on the screen. Mark asked who she was texting. She said, "Just the work group chat." "It's nothing," but the look in her eyes said otherwise. It always said otherwise now. Later that night, they lay in bed inches apart yet miles away. Sasha scrolled through her phone, giggling softly once. Mark turned to her and asked gently, "Can we talk?" She sighed, visibly annoyed. "Can it wait? I'm tired." "Mark?" He nodded. Of course it could wait. Everything could wait, except the truth. Mark stared at the ceiling in the dark, his mind racing. What had happened to them? To the late-night talks, the shared dreams, the way she used to pull him close in the middle of the night. Now, even in sleep, she faced away from him at 2:17 a.m. He got out of bed without making a sound. He tiptoed to the guest room closet where he had hidden the camera equipment. Tiny, unnoticeable, perfect. The next morning, while Sasha was showering, Mark installed the camera inside the home office. It was hidden in a fake smoke detector, angled perfectly at the desk and couch. She sometimes worked from home on Fridays. Today was Friday. When she left the house that afternoon to get groceries, Mark checked the footage. Nothing yet, but the recording was working. And he knew, if she was lying, this camera would show everything. The trap was set. He just had to wait. It was Monday morning when Sasha dropped the news like it was nothing. As Mark poured her a cup of coffee, she casually said, "Oh, by the way, I've got a 2-day business trip with the team this week." He froze for just a second. His hand trembled slightly, spilling a drop of coffee on the counter. "A trip?" he asked, trying to sound normal. She nodded while scrolling through her phone. "Yeah, just Wednesday to Thursday. Quick overnight. Ryan and I have to meet a client out of town." The air felt heavier. Mark forced a smile. "Want me to drive you to the airport?" She hesitated. "No need. I'll just Uber." Too quick, too rehearsed, too clean. Later that night, Mark went through her suitcase when she wasn't home. Only one change of clothes. No laptop. No documents. But there was lingerie he hadn't seen in years. Still with the tag on. His heart sank. She wasn't packing for a meeting. She was packing for him. For Ryan. On Wednesday morning, Sasha left before sunrise. She kissed him on the forehead. It felt like someone else's lips. She said, "I'll text you when I land." Mark didn't reply. He just nodded and watched her walk out the door, with her secrets packed neatly beside her. An hour later, Mark checked the GPS on her phone. The pin never moved near the airport. Instead, it blinked from a hotel, just 30 minutes away from their home. He stared at the screen in disbelief. She hadn't even bothered to leave the city. Why would she? He was never supposed to find out. Mark clenched his fists, his stomach twisted into a knot. But he didn't call her. He didn't confront her. He waited. That afternoon, he checked the home office camera footage. Empty, silent. Just Milo curled up in the corner, sleeping peacefully. But something told him this wasn't over yet. This was just the beginning. That night, Sasha sent him a selfie from a hotel room bed, hair styled, wine glass in hand. Long day. She captioned it with a winking emoji. Mark stared at it for a full minute. Then he saved the photo. Evidence. The next day, Sasha came home around 11 p.m. She kissed him. She smiled. She smelled like a new cologne. Not his. Not again. Mark didn't say a word. He just looked at her and said, "Welcome home." But in his mind, something had changed. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was war. The next morning, Mark couldn't look at Sasha the same way. She moved through the kitchen like nothing happened, laughing at a meme on her phone, wearing his sweatshirt, acting like the woman he once loved hadn't just spent the night lying beside someone else. Mark smiled back. He had to. He couldn't let her see what he knew. Not yet. He needed her to stay comfortable, to feel safe, to feel invisible, because today, the camera would finally speak. When she left for work, Mark rushed to the office and opened the hidden app that synced with the fake smoke detector. He fast-forwarded through hours of nothing, just Milo napping, the shadows moving across the floor, the wind tapping gently at the window. And then, around 6:13 p.m. the door opened. Sasha walked in. Alone, she tossed her bag on the couch and pulled out her phone. She was texting, smiling. She adjusted her hair in the reflection of the dark laptop screen, then she walked out again. Mark's heart beat faster. He watched the timestamp tick by. At 6:39 p.m. the door opened again. Ryan. Mark's breath caught in his throat. There he was, the man from the office, the name on the message, the one who wore that same cologne. Ryan walked in like he'd done it 100 times before. He didn't knock. He didn't hesitate. He belonged there. And that hurt more than anything. Sasha followed him, and a few seconds later she laughed softly as she closed the door behind them. Then she poured wine. Mark's wine, the same bottle they'd saved for their anniversary, now opened. For this, they sat on the couch, too close. She took off her heels, curled up next to him, and placed her hand on his knee. Then, like clockwork, they kissed. Mark paused the footage. He got up and walked to the sink, vomited. The sound of betrayal echoed in his ears like static. He returned to the screen, hit play, watched them laugh, kiss again. She whispered something into Ryan's ear, and he laughed, the kind of laugh Mark hadn't heard from her in years. They didn't even go upstairs. Right there on the couch, they made out like teenagers sneaking around after curfew, like Mark didn't exist, like their wedding never happened, like he was already gone. When it was over, Sasha fixed her hair. Ryan zipped up his jacket. She walked him to the door. One last kiss before he disappeared, and then she returned to the couch. She stared at the empty wine glass, smiled to herself, opened her phone, and typed a message. Mark's phone buzzed on the table. Sasha, still working late? Babe, don't wait up. His hands shook. His mouth was dry, but something inside him had changed. It wasn't just pain anymore. It was precision. This was no longer about heartbreak. It was about strategy. Tomorrow, he would play the role of the loving, clueless husband again. But inside, he was planning something cold, something final. Mark didn't sleep that night, not even for a second. He lay in the darkness, listening to the steady rhythm of Sasha's breathing beside him, peaceful, unbothered, as if nothing had happened. But something had happened, and he had it. Every second, every kiss, every whisper, frozen forever on video. By morning, Mark's eyes were bloodshot. He made coffee, pretending to yawn like he'd just woken up. Sasha entered the kitchen with a soft smile. Morning. Babe, she said, reaching for a mug. He kissed her on the forehead. It made his stomach turn. How was the client meeting? He asked casually. She shrugged, exhausting. I need a weekend just to recover. She smiled again. He smiled back, but it wasn't a smile of love. It was camouflage war paint. When she left for work, Mark sat down and opened the camera app again. He wanted to make sure it hadn't been a dream, that he hadn't imagined the whole thing. He watched the footage again, not because he had to, but because he needed to feel it. Every ounce of pain, betrayal, humiliation. He paused on the moment Sasha kissed Ryan's neck, on the way she leaned into him like she used to with Mark, on the look in her eyes when she touched Ryan's chest. That spark, that excitement, that belonged to Mark once. Now it was his only in memory. He rewound the tape, watching Sasha laugh. Genuinely, she hadn't laughed like that at home in years, but with Ryan, she was alive, effortless, free. Mark's jaw clenched. He stared at the screen until tears blurred the image. Then, slowly, he wiped them away. He clicked download on the footage. saved it to a hidden folder, then made a backup on a separate drive. And a cloud copy. He wasn't going to lose this, not when it was the only truth he had left. The next 2 nights played out the same way. She came home late. She said she was swamped at work. She smelled like wine and perfume that wasn't hers. And every time Ryan showed up again, same time, same routine. Kisses, touches, laughter. Mark didn't confront her. Not yet, he needed more. On Friday night, the camera caught something new. Ryan stood up from the couch and pulled Sasha into his lap. She giggled. God, if Mark ever found out. Ryan smirked. He won't. He seems like the boring type anyway. Mark froze, his vision blurred with rage boring. He had built this house, supported Sasha through every phase, and now this man, this smug stranger, dared to call him boring in his own home? That was the moment something cracked. Something deep inside him turned cold, not broken but focused. He wasn't going to cry anymore. He wasn't going to plead. He wasn't even going to scream. He was going to plan, and when he moved, he would destroy both of them. Mark sat alone in the backyard that Saturday morning, wrapped in silence and cold coffee. The sun was out, the birds were chirping. But inside him, a storm was forming. He had all the evidence, all the lies, all the betrayal. It was enough to blow everything up in one fiery confrontation. But something stopped him. He pictured Sasha crying, begging, twisting her words. He imagined her saying it was a mistake, that it meant nothing, that she still loved him, and worst of all, he imagined himself believing her. No, not this time, not after everything. If he confronted her now, she'd just spin it, blame work, stress, call it a temporary lapse, maybe even flip the script and accuse him of invading her privacy. That's how she was, smart, manipulative when cornered. Mark didn't want drama, he wanted devastation. He needed her to feel it, not just guilt but fear, the kind of fear that comes when the ground beneath you vanishes, and everything you thought was safe starts to crumble. So he chose revenge. Calculated, cold, silent. That night, he sat across from her at dinner and smiled like everything was normal. He asked how her day was. She said it was busy, exhausting, non-stop. He nodded and said, "You deserve a break. Maybe a little surprise soon." She raised an eyebrow. He just winked, "Wait and see." She laughed genuinely, like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't kissed Ryan in this very room just 3 days ago. That laugh fueled him. Over the next few days, Mark began gathering more. He synced the footage to a hidden folder on a secure cloud drive, created a montage, carefully edited every lie, every kiss, every whisper. He even slowed down the part where Sasha giggled. If Mark ever found out. Then cut to Ryan, smug. He wanted it was perfect, damning, unforgettable. He didn't stop there. He bought flowers and had them sent to Sasha's office, with a handwritten note. "I'm so proud of everything you do, love." She posted them on her Instagram story with the caption, "Lucky girl bouquet." Good, let her feel safe, let her think he was still blind, still devoted. She had no idea he was already turning the knife. Mark started texting her more often during the day. He asked when she'd be home, said he missed her, made her feel adored, and every time she lied, he saved the messages. It was working. He saw it in her eyes. She was getting comfortable again, lowering her guard. And that's when he knew. The time was coming, the moment she'd least expect it, and when it did, it wouldn't be private, it would be public, unforgettable, final. Mark had always believed in honesty, but now, he believed in timing, and the right time to strike was close. Closer than Sasha could imagine. He started with small things. He picked up her dry cleaning without her asking. He brought home takeout from her favorite sushi place. He even offered to help with her taxes, something she usually dreaded. Every gesture painted him as the perfect husband, loving, attentive, clueless. But in the background, he was perfecting his plan. The final edit of the footage was complete. He added soft music under Sasha and Ryan's laughter. Romantic and haunting. He included timestamp dates, even a short intro. This is what love looks like when it dies. Now he needed a stage. The opportunity came quicker than he expected. One night, Sasha came home buzzing with excitement. Guess what? She grinned. "We're having a company party next Friday. Big client win. Everyone's invited, including spouses." Mark felt the corner of his lip twitch. "Really? I'd love to go." Sasha hesitated for a moment, just a flicker of panic, but then nodded. "Yeah, Yeah, of course, it'll be fun. She had no idea. Over the next few days, Mark played his role to perfection. He asked what she was wearing to the party. He offered to get his suit dry cleaned. He even joked, "Hope your coworkers don't steal you from me." She laughed, but something in her eyes said she thought she already had. Meanwhile, Mark contacted a tech friend. Someone who owed him a favor. He arranged access to the venue's projector system quietly, discreetly, without Sasha or anyone in her company knowing. He loaded the final video onto a secure USB drive, then made 2 backups. He wasn't taking any chances. The night before the party, Sasha was glowing. She got her nails done, did a face mask, even let Mark rub her shoulders like they were newlyweds again, and when she kissed him goodnight, he kissed her back. She was walking right into it. The next day, Mark dressed carefully, dark blue suit, crisp shirt, black tie. He looked like the man she used to be proud of. Before Ryan, at the party, the room buzzed with chatter, music, clinking glasses. Mark shook hands, smiled, made small talk, but his eyes never left Sasha and Ryan. They stayed close, always just a little too close at one point. Ryan whispered something in her ear that made her blush. Mark noted the moment. It would be the last time Ryan smiled that way in public. His tech friend texted, "We're ready? Just say the word." Mark replied with one word, "Now." The lights dimmed, the music paused, and the projector screen lit up. Mark turned and faced the crowd, his heart beat steady. Not with nerves, but with purpose. On screen, the first frame appeared. "For Sasha, from your loving husband." She froze. Everyone turned toward the screen, expecting a slideshow of memories. Instead, they got the truth. The footage rolled: kisses, laughter, wine, shadows, whispers, and finally her voice. If Mark ever found out, Ryan, he won't. Gasps filled the room, chairs scraped. Someone dropped a glass. Sasha covered her mouth, her face draining of color. Ryan stood frozen, his jaw tight. People were filming. Others just stared, silent, stunned. Mark stood in the back, arms crossed, watching the collapse. And when the video ended, he calmly walked toward the door. Sasha called out after him, "Mark, wait." But he didn't even look back. The room was still, frozen. The video had ended, but the silence it left behind was louder than any explosion. Sasha stood in the middle of the crowd, her hands shaking, mascara smudged under her eyes. She looked around in panic. Like a cornered animal, people weren't just watching her anymore, they were judging her. Whispers rippled through the room like a wave. Her boss, Mr. Dalton, stared at her, jaw clenched. One of her coworkers stepped back from her like she was contagious. No one said a word to her, they just watched. Ryan tried to speak first. "Sasha, we need to talk." But she snapped. "Just don't." The color drained from her face. "This is all your fault," she hissed, her voice trembling. Mark, already halfway through the door, paused just long enough to hear that. He didn't smile, he didn't gloat, he just kept walking. Outside, the air felt different, cool, clean, free. For the first time in weeks, Mark could breathe. Inside, chaos unfolded. Sasha ran after him, heels clacking against the floor, calling his name. "Mark, please, wait." He turned, slowly, the look on her face, broken, desperate, wasn't satisfying. It was tragic, but not for him, for her. "Mark, I made a mistake," she said, grabbing his arm. Tears streamed down her face. "I don't know what I was thinking. I felt like I wasn't enough. I needed someone, to feel alive again." He looked at her, eyes calm, steady. "And you thought Ryan was the answer?" She opened her mouth, but no words came, only sobs. "I gave you everything," Mark said softly. "I was patient, loyal. I tried to fix you. You broke it anyway." He pulled his arm free. Behind them, a crowd was forming by the glass doors. People had come outside to watch. Phones were still recording. Sasha realized it then. There was no undoing it, no hiding it. The truth wasn't just out. It was viral. Ryan stepped outside next, but no one looked at him. He wasn't the main character anymore. He was just the mistake. Mark turned one last time to Sasha. "You didn't just cheat on me," he said. "You buried us, and I'm not digging you out." He walked away, not fast, not dramatic, just done. And that was worse than screaming, worse than rage, because it meant he didn't love her anymore. And that terrified her more than anything. Mark didn't go home that night. Not to that house, not to her. He checked into a small hotel downtown, no champagne, no big celebration, just peace and silence. The kind that wasn't cold anymore, but clean. He stood in front of the mirror and looked at himself, really looked, for the first time in months. The man staring back didn't look broken, didn't look lost. He looked like someone who had survived the fire and stepped out stronger. Sasha called 10 times, then texted, "Please, Mark. Let's talk, I can explain, you blindsided me. But maybe we can fix it, I miss you." He read every word, then deleted them, no reply. She wasn't his problem anymore, she was her own. In the days that followed, the fallout continued. Sasha was put on leave at her job, her reputation shattered. Not just because of the affair, but because of how public it became. Her coworkers avoided her like a virus. Ryan. He vanished, didn't even show up to work after that night, coward. Mark, meanwhile, was quiet, focused. He met with a lawyer, filed for divorce. It was over. When Sasha was served the papers, she sent one last message. "So that's it? After everything?" Mark typed back one line, the first and last thing he would say to her in weeks. "No. That's because of everything." Then he blocked her. One morning, he walked Milo through a park they used to visit together, only this time. He wasn't thinking about memories, he was thinking about possibilities, what came next, who he could become. Now that he wasn't trapped in lies, doubt, and silence, he didn't feel empty, he felt light, reborn. And as the sun rose higher over the city skyline, Mark smiled. A real smile, the kind that isn't forced, the kind that means something ended, so something better could finally begin. He wasn't just free, he was alive, and freedom tasted like fire.